our talent pool and what I see as a chief talent officer, just talent in general, is people want meaningful work. They want to be excited about the work they do, who they do that with. They want to be empowered, and they want to deliver and be proud of what the work they've contributed. And and I would say that's been, whether it's this era or the past era, I think that's always been consistent. Now I think as you look at the different demographics and your millennials and others, I think some people are saying, I want it faster, right? You've had at time when careers, you had one career, one job, one company, and now, and it was okay, like, hey, I'm going to do this for 5 years and 10 years and then move into this role. Now I think talent wants things faster because they want to learn faster and they want that digital experience.
That's Amber Graywall, the Chief Talent Officer at Intel, a company I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with. Intel has over 107,000 employees in 36 countries around the world. Prior to Intel, Amber was the Corporate Vice President and Head of Global Talent Acquisition at IBM and the Vice President of Global Talent Acquisition at GE. Today's conversation centers around how technology is affecting the workforce of the future and how Intel is transforming their talent in a data-centric era. You will hear about how they changed the way they handle performance management programs, as well as specific ways they are helping employees grow and develop their skill sets. Amber also shares how she deals with people who are resistant to change, some macro trends she is paying attention to, and changes she is seeing in what the talent at Intel wants and expects from the organization.
Your workforce today, is ever changing. And even if you think about your skills itself, an average skill now, pertains, the lifespan of a skill is about 2 to 5 years now, right? Just given how much change is happening in the market. So if skills are constantly changing, jobs are constantly evolving, you want to give your employees that opportunity within, right? Give the opportunity within so that, they don't have to leave the company just to get the skill.
This is Jacob Morgan, best-selling author, speaker, and futurist. Welcome to the Future of Work podcast, where every week I speak with C-level executives, business leaders, and authors to explore how the workplace is changing and what the future of work is going to look like. The goal of this show is to give you the insights, the ideas, and the inspiration to help future-proof your career and your organization. If you want to get access to more content, such as podcast transcriptions and information on working with me or having me keynote your next event, you can visit my website at thefutureorganization.com. If you want to take your education even further by getting access to courses that explore these themes in more depth, then check out futureofworkuniversity.com. Also, if you get a few seconds, please rate and review the podcast on iTunes or whatever your preferred channel is. It really helps the show, and I personally appreciate it, since the podcast does take quite a bit of effort to produce. In case you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or working with me, my email is jacob@thefutureorganization.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Future of Work podcast. My guest today is Amber Graywall. She is the Chief Talent Officer at a tiny company you might all be familiar with, Intel. Amber, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jacob. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, of course, everybody knows I'm kidding when I say Intel is a tiny company. You're probably one of the most recognized brands out there, and you have products pretty much everywhere. But maybe for the few people out there who are not familiar with Intel, can you give us a little bit of background information about the company and also what you do there?
Sure. So as you mentioned, this little company has been very iconic if you think about just the whole technology revolution itself. If you think about 20th century technology and how we even talk about the technology that is possible in today's era, it really goes back to Intel being that creator of this technology era, because compute is everything. And really, with Intel starting the PC world and adding, CPUs and PCs and really creating that era, and then taking the CPU to the server. And now really CPUs are going to be in everything. So that means compute is in everything as data is everywhere. So, we are the founders of Moore's Law and how we talk about the fundamental technology architecture that has given technology rise as of today.
So when you say the founder of Moore's Law, maybe a couple of people out there are not familiar with this story, but can you share that story and what Moore's Law is?
Sure. So when you think about Moore's Law, it's really the building blocks of the digital age. And we talk about this at a very steady exponential rate. So it's really saying that you think about the decrease in cost as well as transistor size and how that has dramatically increased compute power and efficiency. So really this is an observation of the pace in which industry is able to drive computing functionality at lower costs. So meaning you're getting more power out of technology at a much lower cost. So that's the best simple way to state that observation is you get more out of your technology in a much more cost-effective way.
And of course, we're all seeing that even today with our smartphones. I mean, if you compare like the smartphones of 2012 or 13, 14 with the ones that we have now, I mean, it's just complete madness what we're walking around with our pockets today.
Yeah.
So as the Chief Talent Officer at Intel, what are you responsible for there?
Sure. So I would say what it is the end-to-end talent lifecycle. When you think about attracting and hiring talent, we hire over 30,000 people annually. So all of the talent attraction, onboarding our talent, then learning and development of our employees, over 107,000 employees that we have worldwide. It is our executive leadership and executive development and succession. It is our people analytics, data science team, leveraging insights and data to drive better talent insights and how we look at, building automation and cognitive technology into our talent life cycle. And driving better value in outcomes to our organization. So that talent life cycle of hiring and developing and growing future leaders.
So everything related to people, it sounds like. I mean, the entire kind of people pipeline at Intel. And you said you have 107,000 people?
We have 107,000 employees, and obviously people is everything, right? And that's our whole HR function as an organization. And I have great partners that help move this company, and we provide all the programs and process efficiency to help operate our great asset, which is people.
Do you guys also work with contractors and freelancers? And if so, are you able to share how many you have and how does that relationship work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you think about just, the workforce is dramatically changing, and we, from full-time employees to gig employees, contractors, vendors, you name it, we are an employer that looks at various types of employment contracts within our organization. And, roughly, I think when you bring everything all in, it goes way over 130,000.
Wow. So you guys have quite a few contractors that you're working with, quite a few freelancers. Is this a trend that you think is increasing in the world in general? Or are you seeing more people want that kind of contractor, freelance, gig work? Is this the future? Is full-time employment going away?
I think, and I've been thinking about all of this and, where are we headed? And I think, before I answer that particular question, I think, how is the business changing? And then what implications does it have to the workforce? Because if you think about it, work has really changed, which is then, having implications on the workforce and then the workplace. Given how fast technology is changing it's impacting the individual and when the individual wants to work, where they're going to work, when they work, and how they work. And obviously there's the implications of skill shortages itself. And what we're seeing in the industry already is that 41% of the workforce is participating in some kind of freelancing or gig opportunity, even today. And I was reading this in the job economy overview that by 2030, that 91% of the workforce will participate in some kind of way of gig economy, which really means that you really relook at social contracts. So for a place like Intel, the great thing is we are open to this both gig freelancing as well as contractors. It's been part of our model for a very long time, but this is something, again, we will have to continue to grow into, as this is where the population is growing. One of the things that we were original pioneer of is called freelance. And this was a program
what was that? What was it called?
Freelance Nation.
Freelance Nation. Oh, yeah. If you can share about that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So Freelance Nation was really on the foundation of the gig economy. So yes, while having the contractor perspective, but also internally creating kind of like a talent marketplace of opportunities for employees that can rotate and move their careers. And we have a program called DOT, which is these DOT assignments you have that you can go into organizations for 6 months at a time, a year at a time, that helps you grow new skill sets. And so think about these as nimble, agile teams that if someone has a particular project, people can raise their hands and say, as part of my growth and development, I'd like to move to this group to take on this project. So it's really kind of the foundation of creating even internal gig economy and leveraging our workforce. So even leveraging permanent employees in a very different way.
Wait, so I have so many questions for you on that. So you said the program is called DOT?
So DOT assignment. So it's Freelance Nation. So think about that as the whole internal talent marketplace. And as part of that marketplace, you have multiple assignments and programs. And the DOT itself is a program that really is to it's really a development tool in essence. So based on the area where an individual wants to grow their skill set. So let's just think within our HR organization. So let's say, from compensation and benefits, there's a DOT assignment in, the talent organization to do some job architecture, a skill set work, and skills, and you would be able to post that, hey, I need someone for the next 6 months or a quarter. And as part of their development opportunity, you can cross-functionally move from comp and ben to business HR to talent. And, and this is something that's across the company.
Does it have to be in a related role? So let's say, for example, I'm working in HR in the Bay Area and I want to go for 6 months to, Australia or London to work on marketing, right? So totally different location, totally different field. Is that an option too, or does it need to be something that is related to what I'm doing and in the same geographic location?
Yeah, so we definitely do have international. Actually, even just within our organization, we were looking at people that were in a different region to come across, to our headquarters to help on leadership development programs. So it doesn't have to be in a particular location. It could be, again, overseas, cross-functional, different location, different business unit. Usually, I think, again, you do look at some corresponding skill sets to make sure that there's transferable skills, but at the same time, we do also hone into the development skills. So if there's a particular area you want to grow into even more and learn, that's really what this is about, is their development and their growth to upskill themselves and really work on real life projects and experiment and learn that skill on the job.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. I also heard stories, I think Cisco was doing this, where they had, and I don't know the exact details, but I think they had some kind of like internal freelance marketplace. And I think another couple, a few organizations out there are experimenting with this, where You can be an employee, you have a full-time job, and then somebody can post that they need help on something. And you can, in addition to your full-time job, you can also do kind of like side work for the company. I don't know if that rings a bell, but I thought I heard some stories out there of companies creating their own internal marketplaces, kind of the way that you're doing as well.
Yeah, and I think, again, this gives, I definitely do think there's a trend to this because if you think about it, your workforce today, is ever changing. And even if you think about your skills itself, an average skill now, pertains, the lifespan of a skill is about 2 to 5 years now. Right, just given how much change is happening in the market. So if skills are constantly changing, jobs are constantly evolving, you want to give your employees that opportunity within, right? Give the opportunity within so that they don't have to leave the company just to get the skill. So as part of your development training programs, I talk to a lot of my peers in the industry that are working on some kind of internal talent marketplace, that whether it's a development opportunity, projects, but it also, helps look at, okay, who are the people within our organization that have certain skills that you could transfer these skills and work more as nimble, agile organizations, these agile teams of networks, and, mentorship and coaching. So I think that, a lot of organizations are starting to experiment because there's an appetite from employees to want to grow and, constantly be challenged and learn new things as part of their learning agility.
What are some of the big trends that you're paying attention to? And I guess there could be a couple of trends, right? Maybe um, macro trends that you're paying attention to just in the world, and specific talent trends, just anything that you're particularly focused on that you think is going to impact your business and specifically the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think from that macro level, it's very interesting phenomena, right? I mean, if you think about the pace and how technology is growing, and the concept of data, right? Like data never sleeps anymore. I don't, it's the way it's growing. I mean, I think I read somewhere on Forbes that 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created on a daily basis. Like I can't even fathom that idea. When you think about that, that is massive. Whether it's a like, it's a tweet, it's a stream, it's a share. Data is being created every single day. And if you think the mass majority of this data, majority of it was just created 2 years ago. So when you think of that in itself as a trend, it's significant, right? Because it impacts now companies to fundamentally think of different strategies. So for us, an example is that fundamentally, is us moving from a PC to a data-centric company, right? Going from just having compute into PCs to servers to now every single thing. Every single device is going to be a smart device and it's going to deliver outcomes. And that is meant for this data is to structure the data and drive valuable insights and outcomes for customers. And now if you think about this from a data perspective, that's one thing. The other big change you see in the industry is the average span of a company now is 15 years. Right. And I've been with some companies that have, been in existence for over 100 years, 125 years, 50 years. And when you see that how companies, these S&P 500s average span is 15 years, how do you continue to innovate and make that disruption within the industry when technology is changing, I think is another key thing. Just how you think about how people worldwide and their digital footprint, the whole concept of trust and social being and inclusiveness, and really the phenomena is that people trust businesses even more than government at points, right? So all of these shifts, it really is putting it really means, what does all of this mean for the enterprise now? And the role that enterprise plays in the factor of how work is done, how to grow individuals. We talked about the gig economy piece. I think that's a big one. the amount of digital footprint and foot presence, in the world. I mean, 80% of people in the world will have a digital presence by 2023. So, if you think about that and you think about these consumer grade experiences, and Jacob, you know that really well. You've written a lot of books around this topic, which is now the way you experience the workforce and the workplace and the enterprise, all of this is getting interconnected. And people want to drive impact. They want to be part of organizations where they know they're doing meaningful work, they're contributing, and they're growing. And, they want that digitalization and that experience within. So, from that perspective, it's really important for us. The other trend is, if you just look at that, we have a multi-generational workforce, and 75% of the workforce will be millennials in 2025. So as you think about that, these are now your future leaders, that you have this multi-generation. How do you prepare leaders for leading in 21st century with the complexity of the world? How do you ensure that your people are growing, and what kind of culture do you need in order to grow these? So I would say, these are, really top of mind from an industry perspective, but also, at the core of the heart of what we're doing at Intel, and why as the business is evolving, we have to, as HR, evolve at the same time to solve for some of these macro challenges and talent implications.
Can you share anything about some of the programs that you have going on? So, for example, the Freelance Nation with the dot assignments, I think, is a pretty cool program. But can you give us a sense of maybe some other initiatives or programs that you have going on that are dealing with some of these trends and changes that you're paying attention to?
Sure. So, I would say, to the heart of what transforming to a PC to a data-centric company, the foundation of it is culture. So we are going through, I would say, one of the largest transformations as a company ever in our history. And the foundation of it is a culture transformation. So a culture of not only who we need to be today, but who we need to be tomorrow, in this dynamic business environment, and how we serve our customers, how our business model is shifting. So, as we speak, we're going through a significant culture transformation, setting, what are the behaviors that are needed in order to do this, holding our teams and leaders accountable to that. We've completely have, relooked at and are rethinking our whole performance management system. Specifically to that. We are really doubling down and focusing on leaders and building leadership programs and growing our leaders. So, for example, one of the leadership programs is, inspirational leadership, and how to inspire in this new era. Managing at Intel, really aligning core management skills and expectations to be, successful in a really fast-paced environment. And then customizing leadership and development for our senior executives, our VPs, that are the most critical part of this transformation, and being the role models to, our strategy and culture, and our leadership practices, I would say, are the others. But it again, and then building, inclusivity in how we're ensuring, we have an environment where, people feel like they belong. And, as you've seen, we've one of the first tech companies to get 50% gender representation. We've gotten, full pay parity for our organization. And now it's all about, we've been able to hire this talent, grow them. Now let's continue to develop and nurture this talent. We're looking at leadership programs for even senior women and senior executives to get them board opportunities and board representation, so that they're growing, they're developing, and that is also, a competitive advantage for Intel, of having these senior women that are, passionate and growing their skill set as well. So a number of things, and then in itself, we are fundamentally transforming our talent function, moving from a talent management organization to that of a talent value organization.
Okay, maybe we can talk about that in a minute as well. But you said you are changing your performance management programs, which I find to be quite interesting. So can you talk about what they used to be like and what you are moving towards and why?
Yeah, and I think, in the past it's always been, what did you do? Here's the results. Did you accomplish those results? And, a basic system that looked at, okay, check mark, that was done. And really now it's not just what you get done, but how does it get done? And as a part of that, how is the culture aligned to this? And how are you continuously growing and learning as part of our new culture, right? And it was very tied to a very rating system. You're rating an individual based on did they meet this criteria or not? And we've gone completely away from we've done a 180-degree shift. So which again, it goes back to this cultural pivot of we are a different company now. In this era, it's not just about what you're doing, how you're doing it, you're learning, and it's not, again, just one person contributing and delivering. It is one team. It's one Intel. It's one, all of us trying to deliver the results that we need to meet our customer needs. So a huge mind shift from how things were done to where we're headed.
So no ratings. I mean, everybody, I'm sure listening to this has gone through a performance review where basically, you sit down once a year and you have the talk, so to speak. And everyone kind of gets rated and put into some sort of a bucket. So if you're not doing that anymore, one of the big issues that I keep hearing from people is, how do we know where we stand? How do you figure out how much to pay people? Who gets the bigger bonuses? Who gets the salary increases if you don't have all these ratings in place? So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, and I think, performance was what happened with performance was it became a one-year thing, right? It's like this annual performance review cycle, and people, you get all prepared to have this full lengthy conversation. You have this full documentation, and if you did this, you get paid this. If here's where the ratings, you're a superstar or you're not a superstar, right? And if you really think about that it's moving away from performance ratings and this annual review to more of a feedback and development continuous cycle, right? So the reality is, the more often you're speaking and having conversations and realigning on your priorities, how you're doing it, when you're doing it, you have more insights. There are more insights in what the work needs to be done and where you need to be developing and honing down. Right. I think the biggest disconnect was you would have these once a year conversations and you're surprised. There shouldn't be an element of surprise when there's continuous engagement and conversation and dialogues, because you have to realign your priorities. Sometimes, people would go into a performance discussion and say, okay, but I delivered this, but that wasn't a priority anymore. The work got. So really, this is about development, reprioritizing, continuous conversations, and removing the element of a surprise. And again, I don't think any company's had it figured out, but I think it goes back to those macro trends, right? Like I've been at companies where there's been extreme ratings, you've gone to no ratings, and then you've gone into kind of some middle aspect. And, but this for us is that first wave and the sign of we're going through a culture change. And the first aspect of it, these shouldn't be annual discussion. These should be more continuous feedback, development conversations about ensuring that you're working on the things that are most critical and what needs to be delivered to the end customer. So I would say it's kind of that first transition and transformation for us.
Are leaders then guided on how often they should talk to their employees, like once a day, once a week, once a month? Do you give them guidance on the questions that they should be asking or the topics that they should be bringing up? And then during these conversations, do they just have to like mentally remember what they talked about, or is there some sort of a tool that they use to kind of keep track of, like, we talked last week and you had some issues here, and we talked 2 weeks before that and those issues were still there? Or I'm just really curious on the like practical side of it, like how it actually works.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a full change management exercise, right? And, my colleague that's really driving our performance management suite, that team has, is working cross-functionally with, it's all of Intel, right? So from senior leaders to our teams, really building to managers, role modeling it. But it is, right? There's guidance on how often this is done, right? So there's guidance on the timeline, and there's specific, dates, from quarterly dates to when these check-ins are. The system, we've created a technology platform that allows these discussions and how you input the data, and then you are able to calibrate the data and get the information to have these conversations and analyze this information at an annual perspective. But that is the whole process of the change management. Is you're enabling your HR function, your managers, your leaders, and it's a full, I would say, behemoth of a transformation. And so all of your systems, so you have to update your people, your processes, your technology. As I mentioned, managing at Intel, it's a program we have. So updating all of our curriculum to now talk about how this system is a part of the way you manage and have conversations, training them. But this is a big undertaking that's going on.
What are you finding that anybody is resistant to it? Like employees or managers, people in leadership positions. Do you get anybody that says, "Oh my God, this is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. We should keep the ratings"? And if so, how do you, I don't want to say deal with those people, but how do you educate them on kind of like the new direction that the company's taking?
Yeah, and I think it's to your last point you said, it's really about the education, right? It's answering why are we changing? And the second piece is you have to co-create with others, right? This is not an HR program that is coming top down. This is, addressing again the need that we are moving from a data centric company. So that means our business model is changing, our customers are changing, the way we operate is changing, and now the way we deliver, how we deliver, and our expectations of one another are changing, right? So it's part of that whole story, and now this is an enabler to help make sure that we transform this culture. So when you're going through a culture change and a massive culture change, performance is an indicator. It's kind of the vehicle and tool that helps guide the culture transformation. So and our employees are a part of that. Everyone's part of this culture change, and that, again, as I mentioned, the performance is one of the vehicles you use as part of that, and that's why they're co-creating it. You have people that are role modeling this, and it's not just, again, HR bringing this, it's, again, our employees and our leaders that are part of this transformation.
You also mentioned this idea of meaningful work, which has been coming up quite a lot from conversations I've been having with a lot of companies. Can you share what you're doing around that? How are you helping create or help employees discover that? And what role do the managers at Intel play in kind of helping make that happen?
Yeah. I mean, and I think, again, meaningful work really starts with, are you proud of the work that you're doing? So, as a company, your core expertise, and I'll tell you, people get really excited knowing that, you're building the technology that powers and connects the world. Like, so first it starts with what do you actually do as a company? And again, our ambition to have compute in everything is and the TAM, the opportunity we have a $320 billion TAM opportunity. So just being part of that and saying creating the next generation of architecture technology with the strong foundation we have in innovation, that in itself gives you a reason, am I behind the company I'm with? That piece of it becomes, the environment I'm in. Do I have a place where I can collaborate, work with smart people? Do I have a culture that supports me? Is it inclusive? Those elements of it. Am I learning? Am I growing? Am I developing? Right? And those are a lot of what I would say are the ingredients of a company. And we have a lot of those programs, as you mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, from development and how we focus on our employees to, how we ensure diversity. And we just don't talk about diversity. It's in our numbers, right? We have that full representation, and you see it. And you participate in because it's a very inclusive environment. And we teach our managers based on the programs we have, whether it's inspirational leadership or whether it's managing at Intel or the next generation development programs, but it's addressing real life problems and concerns they have. So when we do our employee experience survey, so for example, that was something that got launched out this year, was to really get the essence of the heart of what employees are saying. And given how huge of a company we are and the amount of feedback that came back on what's working, what's not working, is great. We have a very active employee base that has, they want to be part of the solution. They want to share their voice. So that really means taking this information and solving it with those programs. Do we need to double down on leadership? Do we need to double down on the culture? Do we need to double down in more development and opportunities? So it really gives us insights to then build programs that address employee needs.
You mentioned employee experience survey, not employee engagement survey, and I'm curious: is that intentional? Do you call it an employee experience survey? And can you share? Is it an annual survey that you do? What sort of things do you guys look for in that?
Yeah, no, and it is. It's an engagement survey, but it's all in one. It's based on employee experience and how engaged they are. And we used to do traditional org health surveys, and then you have manager surveys, but this is what we really felt that it should be all inclusive, that looks at both engagement, org health, but then culture. Given that we are going through culture transformation, how our employees are experiencing that transformation and what's their feedback and what else can we continue to do as we are evolving as a company, but then where are areas we need to hold ourselves more accountable as well. So that's really what it's meant for, and as a company, we're going through also digital transformation that's being led by our CIO's office. And, as we think about how can we collaborate even more? What are the best ways? And if you think about us as a company, we have very diverse roles and environment. So, manufacturing, as we move into manufacturing 4.0, how automation technology is transforming there, and our future technicians and the skills and evolving their skills, and how technology and their role is going to evolve, how HR's role is evolving, how our technical roles are evolving, and and it's an interesting dynamic for us because 86% of our company is hardcore technical. Right? When you think about being such a core technical company, how do you grow next generation leaders, but how do you ensure that you have supply for next generation talent when given how much skill shortage of STEM talent there is, right? So the level of partnerships we have with STEM education and schools, and how we're upskilling as well as growing next generation pipeline. So we get that validation based on what employees are seeing, what we're seeing in the market, what our leaders are saying. So it really helps HR then work on programs that are most relevant.
And I do have a couple of questions on that, but I also wanted to quickly transition to a couple of questions that people on LinkedIn wanted me to ask you. So I always try to include a couple questions from the social media folk, because when I tell them that I'm talking to folks such as yourself, they always have lots of questions. So here's one that came from Nuria Rojo, and this is actually a good question. I totally forgot about this. She wanted to know, are you guys still using OKRs to set and measure achievements? It's actually a 4-part question. She also said, how are you dealing with rewards and bonuses? And is HR responsible for that? And has there been a shift in what talent, what talent is in the last couple of years, or is talent still considered a scarcity? So a couple questions in there, starting off with maybe OKRs, how you guys think about bonuses, and have you noticed a shift in maybe what talent wants? What are they asking for from Intel?
Yeah, sure. And, so it's, the company that founded OKRs it's great, and I think it goes back to what was that really? It's more about, ensuring, are we meeting our objectives? Are we meeting, the key priority areas? And, I would say our acronyms have evolved over time, but really it's about operational execution and ensuring we are delivering and executing flawlessly. And I would say that is our bloodline, like that is in our culture and who we are. And so regardless of whatever acronym has changed and grown, but we are very focused on our objectives, priorities, and executing to that. And that's really what those OKRs were. And I know that a lot of companies have started adopting that model that once originated from Intel. So yes,
you guys are famous objectives and key results, right? Isn't that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's again, like, then, we process leadership, right? Like that's what we're known for is, delivering, executing, and, executing the key critical areas we need to. And that's, again, foundational to us. Absolutely still part of the core of who we are. And secondly, in terms of, our compensation model is a very holistic compensation model, and really it looks at rewards, benefits, and various pieces for differentiation, but then also a holistic view. So absolutely, we have a model for that. And then I think the third was, how do we think about talent? Remind me what that was, Jacob.
Yes, it was around. Are you seeing changes in what talent wants and expects from Intel?
I would say it's not any different than what talent is expecting from any employer, right? Our talent pool, and what I see as a chief talent officer, just talent in general, is people want meaningful work. They want to be excited about the work they do, who they do that with. They want to be empowered, and they want to deliver and be proud of what the work they've contributed. And, and I would say that's been, whether it's this era or the past era, I think that's always been consistent. Now, I think as you look at the different demographics and your millennials and others, I think some people are saying, I want it faster, right? You've had, at time when careers, you had one career, one job, one company. And, now, and it was okay, like, hey, I'm going to do this for 5 years and 10 years and then move into this role. Now, I think talent wants things faster because they want to learn faster and they want that digital experience. And, and I think that's programs like our DOT assignment and the Freelance Nation. I think it helps solve for that. We have a millennial group that is part of our business employee resource groups that are feeding in information on what is important to the company and what should we be mindful of, right? Over 56% of our population is millennials and Z. So it helps us to continue to keep in touch with what our talent wants. But at the heart of it, one of the things I do constantly as I go across the globe is I talk to our employees and say, what makes this place great? What makes you stay? And every single time, the answer is very consistent. It is the meaningful work and the people they're working with. And we have brilliant minds, and it's one of the things that makes me proud every single day to know, wow, the level of brilliance this company has is amazing. That comes through its people. Being being that company that is the heart of technology does get you really excited.
Yep, no, couldn't agree more. I mean, technology gets a lot of people, I think, pretty excited, especially when we think about the future. And it's actually a good transition to one thing that we didn't talk about yet, which I know you're pretty interested in, and that is the role of AI and technology on the future. This is something that comes up a lot. And so first, are you optimistic about the impact that AI and technology is going to have on the future of work? And how are you seeing AI or technology change the way that we work?
Yeah, sure. And I'm, before I just get into the core heart of technology, I think there's answering the question why. Why do we need technology in HR and in talent? I think there's this that people feel that, wow, this cognitive revolution and this AI technology, what does this mean? Our job's going to go away, and what is automation going to mean? And to the heart of it, I would say this digital technology, this cognitive era, is really about creating new opportunities both for companies and workers. It's just really redefining the way you create value for human collaboration. So it's augmenting the worker with technology to drive better outcomes. And, and the reason this is happening, why this advance of technology, is if you think about business clients and your business, that could be either your internal customer or your external customer. There is now this expectation that customers want outcomes. They want outcomes that are delivered, and they want them exponentially. Right. And in order to get these outcomes, that means really for functions like HR and specifically what, within our talent organization, that really means we need to evolve our capabilities to meet our client needs. So that it's, technology is absolutely a part of it. That means you're delivering now with AI so that you could create more efficiency. You can have more automation to create a better experience. But again, it's also to create more room and time for your employees to do the more valuable work. Really build on focusing on your clients. So that really means, you're as an organization, you have to now start thinking about creating a talent menu of services. What are the services and offerings I need to deliver to my business to deliver the outcomes they need? It's really investing in people and their skills, and it's adopting a service-like model. And of course, you have to invest in technology to be an enabler of it. But I see this more as about people more than technology. This is the opportunity to build the capability for the people to then work on high valuable work versus and being truly productive partners versus administrators within HR. And in order to do that, yes, AI will be able to do a lot of things, leveraging data, right? So for example, that whole notion of data, you have to have structured data. You have to train your AI in a very meaningful way so that there is prediction. Where are your talent? Get talent alerts. Where is your attrition risk? Where's burnout risk? Where is your skill shortage? And then being thoughtful to say, what should my attraction strategy be like? Personalizing the job experience for the candidate, hiring and onboarding, leveraging technology, developing, having, an AI career coach that is helping your development and employees matching what is the best opportunity for you. So again, technology is an enabler, but for that also means for HR and talent now to up the game, right? That how are you going to offer and provide your clients and your employees a outcome-based service that is giving exponential results?
I love it. I think that's really good advice. This also transitions well to something else, which is upskilling. And so I know that another area you're particularly interested in is thinking about skills that we would need for the future, and also how do we teach people those skills. Are you guys doing anything inside of Intel to upskill and reskill employees? Do you guys have any programs in place? And if so, what skills are you guys focusing on that you want your workforce to know?
Yeah. So, we've taken a very holistic approach. It's kind of what I would say, our secret sauce in our talent framework, and it's a methodology that we've come up with, which looks at a very data-driven approach in how to think about building both talent and org capability of our workforce, and looking at both the critical skills of today as well as the skills of tomorrow. And it starts with all of, analyzing both the critical skills that are needed today in our workforce and how it's changing. I think, again, being such a unique company in the sense that, we have a complete set of technologies that all sit under one roof. So if you think about it, we're one of those companies, very unique companies, that touches from silicon all the way to the edge. And when you think about that technology stack and how now people will be working on that stack, if you had, people that, 7 people doing different things, you might have, one person doing 3 things within that stack, or 4, and a combination of the skills coming together. So it's understanding what are the skills that are converging and how to converge those skills and say, what will those roles look like in the future? So from both a technology perspective, even our sellers, right? Now our sellers are evolving to become solution sellers and taking solutions to our customers. Even us I'll give you a perfect example, within our talent organization, we leverage the methodology that we've created to really look at what are the 21st century skills that are needed for us as a talent organization to serve Intel, and what are the roles that are needed in order to do that. And based on that program, it's called our LEAP program, and it is, it was looking at these critical skills. Now the whole organization is going through, understanding these skills. We're linking development programs to these, creating accelerated leadership programs tied to these to really get our workforce prepared in order to be successful. We've created new roles such as the talent value partner, right? We've moved our organization from, a 20th century organization to that of a 21st century value-driven organization. So, skills is a core part of it, and we look at, where's the industry trends, what are the shifts in the workforce demographics and skill shifts, what skills are converging, but then linking it to where is our business shifting and how do we then support the business that is changing, what skills are needed within us, and then really building a framework to grow these skill sets.
Maybe last 2 questions for you. It's around the advice that you would give for people. So what advice would you have for employees, so just general employees who are in their careers or maybe future prospective employees, to succeed in this kind of new world of work? And what advice would you give for leaders in this new world of work, something that they can practice or do to stay relevant and to also be more effective leaders as all these changes come our way?
Yeah, sure. I would say, things are changing so fast, and the reality is it's never going to be this low again. So being comfortable with uncomfortable is just the new way. And honestly, my advice, whether you're an individual contributor, new in your career, or you're a very senior leader, the one key area that I would tell everyone is learning agility. That ability to constantly learn is going to be important. Because even if you're a leader who's been doing something for 20 years, you're going to be in a different environment, different workforce, disruptive technologies that are changing your business model. So that means your ability to learn and adapt is critical. And that same goes to the employee. As the business is changing, what they need to do, how they enter the workforce, is the core piece of it. So this learning agility is a lifelong skill that is critical. That I would just say as workers, and then taking that, and then the ability, I would say, to communicate and collaborate with others. And I think these are very critical parts. I would say these soft skills have become more critical than ever, right? Technology, again, is going to be able to enable us on understanding the technical, the data side, but the soft skills have become more critical than ever. And that having that grit and ability to constantly learn is foundational as we move forward in this future of the 21st century.
Perfect. And for leaders, it sounds like they also need to be comfortable with learning agility as well. And I suppose challenging the leadership practices that so many of us have learned in schools, through MBA programs over the past couple of decades, and to just understand that even the way that we lead is going to change in the future.
Yeah, it has to, right? Because I think, in the past we've learned that, there's this hierarchy, and there's that one single role that I'm looking to grow in my career ladder. And the reality is, if you think about your future workforce, they think about it very differently. It's not about that one role anymore. It's about driving the impact, and it really is about teaming. So, that leader really has become a servant leader, and it's an influencer that's guiding the team and empowering the teams to get work done. I can't emphasize enough the model of agile networks of teams is very critical. It is the future, and for a leader to understand that and empower the group, because when you put smart people together, they lean on one another, they empower one another, and they come up with great solutions. And that is the new role of that leader, is to empower these teams and guide them, and help where there's roadblocks versus making the decisions and telling where you need to go. It's more, empowering them to co-create together.
I love that message. I have a new book that's coming out in January of next year, all about the future leader and the skills and mindsets that they need. And I love that you talk about guiding employees, because that's definitely a big shift that I'm going to be exploring as well. Where can people go to learn more about you? I know you're on LinkedIn as well, and you write some articles there, but anything that you want to mention for people to check out, please feel free to do so.
Well, great. Well, this was great, and I'm looking forward to continuously sharing, the great things that are happening at Intel, and digitally and socially as well. So looking forward to learning from others as well.
Perfect. Well, Amber, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Of course, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, my guest has been Amber Graywall. She's the Chief Talent Officer at Intel, and I will see all of you next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Work podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please do me a favor and rate and review the show on iTunes or whatever your preferred podcast platform is. And remember, if you want to take your education even further by getting access to courses based on some of the themes that I explore in this show, then check out futureofworkuniversity.com. If you're interested in being added to my newsletter, you can do that by visiting thefutureorganization.com/newsletter. And you can also get in touch with me directly if you have any inquiries for podcast sponsorships, working with me, or having me keynote your next event. My email is jacob@thefutureorganization.com. I will see you next week.